If you keep waking up at exactly the same time every night, around 2 or 3 in the morning, heart slightly racing, mind suddenly wide awake, this is not random and it is not just stress. It is your biology trying to tell you something important. And once you understand the signal, you can finally stop fighting your sleep and start fixing it. Hello, I'm Dr. Rachel Williams, and I'm glad you're here. On this channel, we talk honestly about how the body changes with age and how to work with your biology instead of against it. Today, we're exploring something that affects millions of people silently, waking up in the middle of the night and being unable to fall back asleep. This isn't bad luck. This isn't weakness. This is a hormone rhythm problem that can be corrected. Before we begin, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city or country in the comments. I always love seeing how far this community reaches. And if this video helps you understand your sleep better, tapping the like button helps others find this information too. Now let's get into what's really happening. If you find yourself waking up at 2 or 3 a.m. every night with your mind racing and your heart lightly pounding, it's not just anxiety or coincidence. It's biology. More specifically, it's your cortisol rhythm drifting out of alignment. Cortisol is your body's primary stress hormone, but its role goes far beyond stress. It follows a precise daily rhythm that determines when you feel alert, when you feel calm, and when your body is able to sleep deeply. In a healthy system, cortisol rises in the early morning hours to help you wake up feeling energized. It peaks shortly after waking, then gradually declines throughout the day. By nightfall, cortisol should be low, making space for melatonin, the hormone that allows sleep to take over. But modern life has flipped this rhythm upside down. Late night light exposure from phones and televisions, eating late in the evening, constant mental stimulation, unfinished tasks, and chronic psychological stress all send signals to the brain that it needs to stay alert. As a result, cortisol remains elevated at night, exactly when it should be quiet. This robs the body of deep, restorative sleep, the kind of sleep required for tissue repair, memory consolidation, hormone regulation, and long-term brain health. Here's the surprising part. There is a simple, natural way to calm cortisol at night. 1 tablespoon of a specific nutrient-dense ingredient used for centuries and now supported by emerging research can help lower nighttime cortisol, stabilize blood sugar, rebalance your circadian rhythm, and restore deeper, more uninterrupted sleep. In today's video, we're going to explore how this works, the science behind it, and how you can begin using it as early as tonight to reclaim your energy, focus, and long-term vitality. Cortisol is one of the most misunderstood hormones in the human body. Many people think of it only as a stress hormone, something negative that should always be avoided. In reality, cortisol is essential for life. It is part of an ancient survival system designed to keep us alert, responsive, and alive. Cortisol helps regulate blood sugar, blood pressure, immune response, and even memory formation. In a well-regulated body, cortisol follows a strong daily rhythm. It rises in the early morning to prepare you for the day, then steadily declines as daylight fades. By evening, cortisol should be at its lowest point, allowing melatonin to rise naturally. This balance between cortisol and melatonin is what determines the quality of your sleep, not just how long you sleep, but how deeply you sleep. In today's environment, this balance is under constant attack. From the moment you wake up, your nervous system is stimulated by alarms, emails, news, social media, caffeine, and constant decision-making. Each stimulus causes a small cortisol release. Over time, these repeated surges add up. By the time night arrives, instead of winding down, the brain remains in a state of alertness. For many people, cortisol never truly drops at night. It stays elevated well into the early morning hours. This is why so many individuals wake up suddenly in the middle of the night, often with anxious thoughts or a racing heart, and struggle to fall back asleep. The body is tired, but the brain believes it needs to stay vigilant. When cortisol remains high at night, it disrupts the very structure of sleep itself. Deep, slow-wave sleep, the phase where physical restoration occurs, becomes shallow and fragmented. REM sleep, which is essential for emotional regulation and memory processing, is shortened. Over time, the brain and body are deprived of nightly repair. The consequences show up during the day as fatigue, irritability, brain fog, weakened immunity, poor concentration, and accelerated aging. Research shows that disrupted sleep doesn't just affect how you feel, it affects how you age. Chronic sleep disruption shortens telomeres, the protective caps on your DNA that influence cellular aging. In other words, poor sleep doesn't just make you feel older, it makes you biologically older. The biology behind this is both fascinating and concerning. Cortisol is produced by the adrenal glands under the control of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, often called the HPA axis. When the brain perceives stress, whether physical or psychological, it signals the adrenals to release cortisol. This system evolved to protect us from immediate danger. But the body cannot distinguish between a predator and a stressful email. As a result, even when you are lying safely in bed, worrying about unfinished tasks or future responsibilities, the HPA axis remains active. Elevated cortisol raises blood sugar, increases heart rate, and signals the liver to release stored glucose. The body becomes metabolically primed for action instead of rest. Even mild elevations in cortisol can suppress melatonin and serotonin, the neurotransmitters that promote calm and relaxation. This creates the familiar feeling many people describe as wired but exhausted. Interestingly, research shows that the timing of cortisol release matters just as much as the amount. People with flattened cortisol rhythms, where levels remain relatively constant throughout the day and night, experience the most severe sleep disturbances. Their circadian rhythm loses contrast. The body no longer clearly distinguishes day from night, activity from rest. This circadian confusion is linked not only to insomnia, but also to metabolic dysfunction, insulin resistance, inflammation, and accelerated aging. Longevity research has increasingly connected these disruptions to declines in cellular repair pathways, including NAD+ metabolism and sirtuin activity, both critical for long-term health. One of the most important principles to understand is that cortisol and melatonin work in opposition. When cortisol is high, melatonin remains low. When cortisol drops, melatonin can rise. This means that improving sleep isn't just about adding melatonin supplements or darkening the room. It starts with calming cortisol first. When cortisol quiets at night, melatonin follows naturally, guiding the body into deep restorative sleep. This connection between cortisol, sleep, and aging cannot be overstated. During deep sleep, the body releases growth hormone, repairs tissues, clears metabolic waste from the brain, and restores mitochondrial function. When cortisol interferes with this process night after night, the aging process accelerates. If you consistently wake up during the night, this is not a personal failure. It's a biological signal. Your body is telling you that its stress rhythm is out of sync. Addressing this imbalance is one of the most powerful actions you can take for brain health, longevity, and overall well-being. The goal is simple but profound. Teaching your body that night is for healing, not for vigilance. Every living organism on this planet follows a rhythm tied to the rotation of the Earth. In humans, this rhythm is known as the circadian rhythm, an internal 24-hour clock that regulates sleep, hormones, metabolism, and even gene expression. It is one of the most ancient biological systems we possess, and yet it is one of the most disrupted in modern life. At the center of this clock is a small group of neurons in the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, located in the hypothalamus. This master clock receives information from light exposure, especially natural sunlight, and uses that data to synchronize nearly every system in the body. When the circadian rhythm is aligned, cortisol rises in the morning and melatonin rises at night, creating a powerful contrast between day and rest. Modern habits have blurred this contrast. Artificial lighting, screen exposure, late meals, irregular sleep schedules, and constant stimulation confuse the brain's timing signals. Cortisol begins to flatten, staying elevated into the evening, while melatonin struggles to rise. The result is nighttime wakefulness and shallow sleep. The long-term consequences go far beyond fatigue. Chronic circadian disruption has been linked to obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, depression, cognitive decline, and even increased cancer risk. When the body's internal clock is out of sync, genes responsible for repair and regeneration activate at the wrong times, leading to cellular stress and inflammation. One of the most damaging effects of circadian disruption occurs in the brain. During deep sleep, the brain activates the glymphatic system, a cleanup process that removes toxic waste such as beta amyloid, a protein associated with Alzheimer's disease. Fragmented sleep interrupts this nightly cleansing, allowing waste to accumulate over time. The modern world creates a biological contradiction. Dim indoor light in the morning fails to fully activate cortisol, while bright blue light at night tells the brain it is still daytime. The body wants to sleep, but the brain refuses. Over time, this leads to chronic circadian misalignment. The good news is that the circadian rhythm is highly adaptable. With consistent behavioral changes, it can often be reset within days. Morning sunlight exposure, reduced evening light, consistent meal timing, cooler sleeping environments, and regular sleep schedules all help restore the natural cortisol curve and improve sleep depth. Sometimes, however, lifestyle adjustments alone are not enough in the beginning. This is where a small, targeted nutritional intervention can make a meaningful difference. When cortisol spikes at night, it is often driven by instability in blood sugar or stress signaling. A small, nutrient-dense food consumed at the right time can stabilize these systems and calm the nervous system. Traditional cultures understood this long before modern science. Today, research is confirming their wisdom. Among the most studied options are raw honey, tart cherry juice, and magnesium-rich seeds, such as pumpkin or chia. Each works through a slightly different pathway, but all support cortisol regulation and sleep quality. Raw honey provides a slow, steady release of glucose that prevents nighttime blood sugar drops. These drops are one of the most common triggers for cortisol spikes. When blood sugar falls too low, the adrenal glands release cortisol and adrenaline to compensate, often waking you suddenly. A small amount of honey before bed helps prevent this alarm response. Tart cherry juice contains natural melatonin, tryptophan, and anti-inflammatory polyphenols. Research shows that even small amounts before bed can improve sleep duration and efficiency by supporting circadian timing and reducing oxidative stress. Magnesium-rich seeds offer another powerful mechanism. Magnesium regulates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest branch of the nervous system, and plays a central role in calming the HPA axis. 1 tablespoon of pumpkin seeds delivers magnesium, zinc, and tryptophan, nutrients that work together to quiet the brain and prepare the body for sleep. What makes these interventions effective is not magic, it's biochemistry. The body is rhythmic, not mechanical. When we provide precise signals at the right time, the body remembers how to sleep. When I reach the next section, I'll continue explaining how this works at the cellular level and how to use this approach safely and effectively. At the cellular level, because this is where everything finally connects. To understand why a simple tablespoon can have such a powerful effect on sleep, we need to look at how the brain and body communicate during stress and rest. At the center of this communication is the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, often called the HPA axis. This is the control system that decides when cortisol is released and when it should quiet down. When the brain senses stress, real or perceived, the hypothalamus releases a signaling hormone that tells the pituitary gland to activate the adrenal glands. The adrenals respond by releasing cortisol. This process is life-saving in short bursts. It raises blood sugar, sharpens focus, and prepares the body to respond. But when this system stays switched on for too long, especially at night, it becomes destructive. Chronically elevated cortisol suppresses melatonin production and interferes with GABA, the brain's primary calming neurotransmitter. The nervous system remains in a state of vigilance. The body wants to sleep, but the brain refuses to power down. This is why so many people feel exhausted yet alert at night. Here's where the 1 tablespoon approach works, not by sedating the brain, but by restoring balance. Magnesium, for example, plays a role in more than 300 enzymatic reactions in the body, many of them directly related to nerve signaling and stress regulation. Magnesium enhances GABA activity, which tells the brain it is safe to relax. When magnesium levels are adequate, the HPA axis becomes less reactive. Cortisol output softens naturally. Tryptophan, found in seeds and certain natural foods, is another key player. It is the building block for serotonin, which later converts into melatonin. Without enough tryptophan, the sleep-wake cycle weakens. Pairing tryptophan-rich foods with a small amount of natural carbohydrate helps it cross the blood-brain barrier more efficiently. This is why combinations like seeds with honey or tart cherry juice are so effective. They work with the brain's chemistry instead of forcing it. Blood sugar stability is equally important. When blood glucose drops during the night, the body interprets this as danger. Cortisol and adrenaline surge to bring glucose back up, often waking you abruptly. A small amount of slow-releasing carbohydrate before bed gives the liver enough glycogen to maintain steady energy levels overnight. The message to the body becomes simple and clear. You are safe. You can rest. There is also the role of inflammation. Chronic low-grade inflammation keeps the stress response active because the body perceives inflammation as a threat. Polyphenols found in tart cherries and other plant foods reduce this internal stress signal. They also support mitochondrial function, which helps cells manage energy more efficiently and reduces the need for cortisol-driven compensation. What's truly fascinating is that nutrients don't just fuel the body, they communicate with it. Certain nutrients influence circadian clock genes in the brain, liver, and gut. This means food timing and composition can literally reset your internal clock. Magnesium, tryptophan, and polyphenols help reinforce the natural contrast between day and night, activity, and rest. Longevity research has shown that chronically high cortisol interferes with NAD+ metabolism, a molecule essential for DNA repair and mitochondrial health. When cortisol stays elevated, NAD+ levels decline and cellular repair slows. By calming cortisol at night, we protect these repair pathways. This is why deep sleep is not just rest, it is active biological renewal. During deep sleep, growth hormone is released, damaged tissues are repaired, toxic waste is cleared from the brain, immune function is recalibrated, and energy systems are restored. None of this can happen efficiently when cortisol remains high. Restoring deep sleep is one of the most powerful longevity interventions available, and it begins with calming the stress response. This is why the 1 tablespoon solution works best as a bridge, not a crutch. It helps retrain the nervous system and circadian rhythm, reminding the body how to transition into rest. Once balance is restored, many people find they no longer need it. Their bodies remember how to sleep deeply on their own. So while it may seem small, a single tablespoon represents something much bigger. It represents restoring trust between your brain and body. When that trust returns, cortisol quiets, melatonin rises, and sleep becomes what it was always meant to be, a time of healing, repair, and renewal. If you've been waking up at night for months or even years, know this. Your body is not broken. It is responding to signals, and when those signals change, your sleep can change too. Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear from you. Do you wake up at the same time every night? Have you noticed patterns with stress, eating late, or screen use? Share your experience in the comments. You never know who you might help by speaking up. If this video helped you understand your sleep in a new way, please like and subscribe. It helps this community grow and allows us to keep having these important conversations. And let me know what health topic you'd like me to cover next. Drop your ideas below and we'll explore them together. This is Dr. Rachel Williams, reminding you that deep sleep is not a luxury. It is a biological necessity, and your body knows how to return to it.